In this video series, I'd like to share a mental model with you that I think can help sustain you as you coach. So often in the coaching world, what we're asked to do is we're asked to give our athletes roles, and then our hope is that they accept those roles. And oftentimes, conflict arises because the athlete can't accept the role that the coach gives them. So one of the things that happens with all of us is that we try to form stories based on all the data points that we get. So it isn't just a matter of collecting information and hoping that they form the right story. All of these different data points get weaved into a vision of how people see the world, right? They try to make sense of these. They make stories of what it is that they see. So all of us create these stories. Well, one of the things that I believe is the only difference between right and wrong is time and perspective. So this has helped me with the athletes that I coach. This has helped me with the assistant coaches that I coach with. This idea that the world that we see is a story that we formed. And since all of us have different ways of perceiving the world, the stories that we are asked to share are often complicated and very different. And here's how I draw that mental model. So with respect to the story that I'm creating, there are two very different people and how they viewed baseball's integration. We've got the angry judge, Kennesaw Mount Landis, and then we've got, ironically enough, his predecessor, or his successor, I should say, Happy Chandler, right? Honestly, you couldn't have two people with more differing personalities, and that's the first frame that I want to share, is this idea that all of us are born into this world with a certain temperament. Okay, so the only difference between right and wrong is time and perspective. So I think the one thing that we have to come to grips with is that everyone has a certain temperament that they bring to our team, our organization. And I'm not going to break it down into the OCEAN acronym. That's typically where your openness, your conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. That's where we've landed right now on what forms our temperament. I will say, though, that some of the stuff that I find most useful is this idea of being highly reactive and not highly reactive. That there are some people that can exist in any environment, and then that there are some that need a very supportive environment. So we've got temperament as the base. Now, what I've found to be so true, and this I've found to be true in my teaching, most recently with really challenging students, is I believe that the experiences that we have growing up, form this second side to this lens. And there's been a lot of research on adverse childhood experiences, and I think that's true. So the way my mental model has framed this is that our experiences can be either negative experiences, or they can be positive experiences. And so many of the people that we come in contact with, we're just not privy to what it is that their past has afforded them. If we grow up with negative experiences, then so often we become very untrustworthy of the people that we encounter. If we have positive experiences, we become very trustworthy of the people that we encounter. And then the last side to this lens is our expectations. Okay, so our temperament and our experiences then define our expectations. And this is so important because as a coach, as someone that's tasked with leading people, what you want is you want your people to have huge expectations. You want them to understand that the future is anything that you want for yourself, that it can be anything, that through hard work and effort, you and we can accomplish whatever it is that we set out to do. But what I found is, again, this idea of perspective is driven by these three things. It's who are you on the inside? What are your genes? What is your disposition to coaching? The experiences that you've had, all of us know that we haven't always had the best coaches. We haven't always had similar parents. We've been surrounded by people that have helped to form the way we view the world. And then these experiences create our expectations. There's a great study out there. Most people know it. It's the marshmallow study. I shouldn't say most people know it, but it's certainly a popular study where they asked young children to delay gratification by not eating this marshmallow. And then they later went back and looked over time as to how did their lives evolve if they chose to wait and not eat the marshmallow and in turn get a second marshmallow. What they found was those people had a better life. And at first it was like, oh, this is all about delayed gratification. And then what they later discovered and added to that research is it's more than just the ability to delay gratification. It's more than just the ability to accept your role and invest in hard work to get a different role. What they found was that people see the world in present moments, and they see the world in future moments. And what they found was that these folks that are willing to delay gratification, these folks that are willing to accept coaching, knowing that it's designed to help you get better, that it isn't criticism in the present, it's literally designed to help you become a better version of yourself in the future. The folks that ate the marshmallow immediately were present-driven folks, that anything that they were told could only be related into the present moment. And those folks had a really difficult time growing because being told not to eat the marshmallow was someone pulling the rug out from underneath you, someone preventing you from having the experience that you want. Whereas those folks that could delay gratification, those are the ones that knew that these people in your life weren't trying to prevent you from having something. They were trying to give you something later that would be better than today. And that's the time perspective, is that what I believe is true is I believe that people with the temperament is really hard. Like, you do have to dig into that and find out, are they highly reactives or are they not highly reactives? Okay, so that is a big component. But that is so hard to dig into, that is so abstract, that sometimes we just have to work from the understanding that they're all highly reactives, and that the environment that we create should be one of a supportive nature, right? But these negative experiences and these positive experiences, when you think about the people that you're coaching, it's a little bit easier to understand. That's a little bit easier to dig into their background and the parents and what are they bringing to the table? Do they have small expectations where all they value is the present, and asking them to accept a role or to sacrifice for the team is the equivalent of not eating that marshmallow? Those are often called present hedonists, that they're on this gerbil little windmill, and they can't get out of it. They're just running in place, and the future has no value. Everything that they're asked to do is about the here and now. And what we want these athletes that have high expectations, that they're willing to accept their role, that yes, they're willing to be coached. They know that we believe in them. We've created an environment that is supportive and encouraging. But more importantly, this story that they tell themselves isn't a story about today. It's a story about tomorrow. It's a story that all of my coaching is designed to put you in a better place tomorrow, instead of seeing it as criticism today. And when you think about these two characters, what you realize that Kennesaw Mountain Landis had a very restrictive, narrow view on the world. That because he was tasked with being a judge and his experiences. He saw the worst come across his plate as a judge, as a federal judge. And he had very small expectations of what it should be, that this is the way things are. We talked about the stare decisis. We referred to past precedent. We don't have an expansive view of the world. We can't see down the road. In fact, I would argue that his lens probably wasn't even so much about the present day, but about the past. That is a third alternative, how you see the world in the past, in the rearview mirror. But with respect to coaching, I believe it's all about the present and the future, okay? But Kennesaw Mountain Landis, I would argue, had a very narrow view of the world. The people that he came in contact with had to fit inside this lens. If they were outside that lens, it was hard for him to adjust. Whereas Happy Chandler, he had positive experiences with all different kinds of people. Serving in the capacities that he served, he was more willing to adapt to the future. He could see that the road ahead was going to take some turns, and being an advocate of civil rights, specifically being the commissioner of baseball and allowing opportunities for black athletes, was going to put him on the right side of justice. And so Happy Chandler had expectations. He could see where the game was going. He could see that Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby certainly weren't going to be the first and second black athletes, that the game was going to expand. And the least that he could do was offer an environment where all of these athletes could flourish. And I would argue that as we coach, you know, there's a saying, to teach Johnny baseball, you got to know Johnny and you have to know baseball. We have to work incredibly hard at understanding our sport and what it is that we're tasked with presenting to our athletes. But the other thing we have to work incredibly hard at is understanding the people in our care and how they see the world. And I think this mental model of time and perspective, understanding their temperament, understanding their experiences, understanding their expectations, knowing who can be coached hard, who can't be coached hard, and knowing how do they see sacrifice and how do they see themselves being assigned a certain role, really helps set us up for success as we start to move into some of these relationships, conflict, and some of these confrontations that we have with our team. Okay, so mental model number one, the only difference between time, the only difference between right and wrong is time and perspective. Again, this doesn't mean that there isn't this truth that we have to work from. What it means is that this truth is going to be perceived from different angles, different lenses. And to really get the most out of any organization, any team, you have to understand the lens in which people see the world. You have to understand the stories that they tell themselves. And so often we think that the stories are transparent and clear when that isn't the case at all, that people perceive things entirely different. And what we might see as transparent, they're seeing as this opaque, abstract construction, and they just can't come to grips with it. So the only difference between right and wrong is time and perspective. I believe that perspective is through temperament, experiences, expectations, lens, and then oftentimes those lenses create a present or a future vision. And once we start convincing our athletes that the future is some place to explore and not some place to be afraid of, we can make the most impact.